Okay, picture this. The car ride home after a dinner party.
Mhm.
The atmosphere, it's not peaceful, it's heavy, pressurized. You know that feeling?
Oh, yeah. The silence is louder than any argument.
Exactly. Sarah is staring out the window, her jaw is clenched, and she's just replaying the whole evening, how she had to remind John about his seatbelt, the birthday card, the babysitter
The
schedule.
list goes on.
It never ends. And she looks over at him, and with this just crushing exhaustion, she realizes she doesn't feel love.
Hmm.
She feels a cold, hard knot. It's right there between exhaustion and just simmering rage. And that right there is resentment.
That whole scenario, which PG Sebastian uses to open his latest reflection, from resentment to resonance, it nails the crisis of modern partnership.
It really does.
You're inches apart, but there's a chasm between you.
Yeah.
A chasm of unmet needs and, silent demands.
Absolutely. And that cold knot, that feeling of just having this permanent weight in your chest, that's what we're deep diving into today. We're focusing on the toxic byproduct of what PG Sebastian calls the manager and the subordinate dynamic. We're exploring how this crisis of invisible labor, all that endless administrative work of life, transforms a relationship into, let's be honest, a never-ending lawsuit.
And our mission here, following the guidance from the Steps to Forever platform, is to really understand the architecture of this conflict so we can pivot the whole discussion.
Yeah, how do we get off that icy road?
How do we get off the road of resentment and find our way back to that vital dynamic resonance? Because if a relationship is, as Sebastian says, intended towards forever,
Then that future has to be built with clarity.
and resentment is the #1 thing that clouds up that clarity.
Okay, so let's start by, defining the enemy here. PG Sebastian makes this really crucial distinction between anger and resentment.
Right, because they're not the same thing at all.
Not at all. Anger is hot, it's active, it's transient. You yell about the messy kitchen, you clear the air, and, it passes. It's momentary. It's even honest in a way. But resentment, that's something else entirely.
It's cold, it's sedentary, it endures.
Sebastian has this amazing phrase for it. He calls it the calcification of love.
And that phrase, calcification, it's so visceral because you can almost feel it, that gradual hardening of the heart.
Yeah.
And PG explains this process. It happens when a repeated injury, like, say, being constantly abandoned with the domestic burden.
Is met with a repeated lack of repair.
Exactly. It's not one big fight. It's 1,000 tiny slights that just pile up and pile up.
So let's go back to Sarah. Every time she has to schedule a doctor's appointment alone or explain how to run the household that John also lives in, every single sock she picks up that isn't hers.
That's not just a chore.
No.
Ugh.
Sebastian says it adds a microscopic layer of sediment to how she sees him.
And those layers, they don't just sit there. They fuse. They harden into this psychological rock that she is forced to carry.
And she stops seeing him as her co-pilot, her lover.
She starts to see him as another child she has to manage.
Or worse.
Or worse, yeah. As a parasite on her finite energy. I mean, that is a devastating place to get to.
And this is where the whole architecture of the relationship just collapses. Sebastian contrasts that early, beautiful state of resonance.
Where you're just vibrating at the same frequency.
Yeah, you're in harmony, but then this unbalanced load comes in, and it forces the introduction of the transactional ledger.
And this is where we have to really push back on the common wisdom. Because when you see a partner keeping score, what does everyone say?
She's being petty.
Right. But PG Sebastian is so clear on this. The wife isn't keeping score out of pettiness. It's necessity.
Because she's drowning.
Yeah.
She needs that mental spreadsheet of everything she does versus everything he does to prove, maybe just to herself, why she is so exhausted all the time.
It's not an attack. It's evidence for her own sanity. It's self-preservation.
Exactly. And meanwhile, John, sensing he's under this constant evaluation.
He develops what PG Sebastian calls the siege mentality.
Okay, so break that down. What does that siege mentality look like day to day?
It's the defensive retreat. John pulls back because he feels judged, unappreciated. He starts to rationalize it in his head, thinking, why should I even bother? I'll just get criticized for not doing it her way.
There it is. The cognitive distortion.
That's the heart of it. His ego protects itself by deciding she's impossible to please, rather than admitting he hasn't been fully showing up.
So he uses her critique of his process as an excuse not to even attempt the task. He tells himself she cares more about how the dishwasher is loaded than his happiness.
Precisely. And that narrative, I mean, it saves his ego in the moment, but it absolutely destroys the marriage.
Yeah.
Because they're not partners anymore.
They're opposing counsel.
Yeah.
And yet on the outside, life just keeps going.
Huh.
They pay the mortgage, they raise the kids, and this internal decay is just, it's hidden behind this functioning outer shell.
Yeah.
PG Sebastian talks about this masking phase, what we all call the roommate phase.
And we really need to stop romanticizing that term. PG argues it's not some benign, gentle drifting apart.
What is it then?
It's a defensive ceasefire. They stop fighting not because they've found peace, but because they have stopped expecting anything from each other at all.
They've given up. They just retreat into these parallel lives under one roof. And this is where we kind of have to throw the challenge back to you, the listener. Sebastian warns us about this cultural anesthesia we've all accepted.
Totally.
You hear the jokes, right? The old ball and chain, the nagging wife, the man-child husband. They're funny because they're relatable, but PG suggests they normalize a profound tragedy.
We've almost been conditioned to believe that this is just the end state of monogamy, that resentment is natural.
It's a dangerous, lethal lie.
It's a symptom of a structural failure.
Yeah.
And it's a curable one.
But the cost of ignoring it is just. It's devastating. The biggest hidden cost is the total eradication of safety.
Yes.
I mean, real intimacy requires you to be vulnerable. But the partner carrying the world on her shoulders, the Sarah in the car, she can't afford to be vulnerable. She has to be armored just to get through her day.
And when the armor is on, desire is off.
Yeah.
You cannot look at the person you feel is exploiting you with desire. You look at them with contempt.
That's the word. That's the killer right there. Contempt.
It is. PG Sebastian, and he's citing Gottman's foundational research here, reinforces that contempt. That feeling that you are fundamentally superior to your partner is the single greatest predictor of divorce.
And the unequal load is just a petri dish for it. Sarah feels superior for being the competent one.
And John feels superior because he dismisses her obsession with details as irrational or controlling.
So they both feel superior and they both lose.
Big time. And intimacy becomes the ultimate casualty. The gap between resentful project manager and passionate lover, it's just impossible to bridge.
The bed becomes just another piece of furniture.
And the result, as PG notes, is this profound loneliness. It's sharper, it's more painful than being single.
Because it's a loneliness you experience in the constant suffocating presence of the person who promised to be your companion.
So where's the real point of no return? PG Sebastian warns us, it's not the explosive fight about the milk. The deepest danger is when indifference arrives. Apathy.
Ah, the quiet quitting of the marriage.
That's it exactly. When Sarah finally stops yelling about the laundry, she also stops asking him to do anything at all.
She just silently decides he's incapable of being the partner she needs.
And she starts building a life that doesn't require his input. She makes him obsolete.
And John, at first, he's probably relieved, right? The nagging has stopped.
For a minute. Then he wakes up one day and realizes, with this terrifying clarity, that he's been completely evicted from her inner world. The house is running, but the marriage is dead.
So the crisis is existential. As Sebastian frames it, can you look at the person who has disappointed you 1,000 times and choose to be vulnerable enough to trust them again?
And he says the path back demands this deliberate, often painful dismantling of those walls. You have to pivot from that transactional view, I do this, you do that,
to a relational view, trading vulnerability for connection.
And this starts with what PG calls the resentment detox. It's not about whose turn it is to take out the trash. It's about the story the trash tells.
So he calls for a structured clarity meeting where that mental spreadsheet, that ledger, is finally opened and read aloud.
Right.
But how do you stop that from just becoming another fight, a list of grievances?
Because the purpose isn't punishment. It's validation. This is the healing solvent. John needs to hear Sarah's pain, not as a critique of his character,
but as a confession of her loneliness.
her burden. The simple words, I see how much you've been doing, and I see how lonely it must have been. That starts to dissolve those calcified layers around her heart.
That's the first brick coming out of the wall.
Validation is the prerequisite, but then, of course, the action has to follow. PG Sebastian sees a request for help as a profound bid for partnership.
And the healing really comes when John recognizes that bid and responds with what he calls radical generosity.
Radical generosity is doing more than is required, not out of fear, but out of a real desire to reestablish safety.
So he doesn't just fill out the school forms because she asked.
No. The actionable example Sebastian gives is that John takes total ownership. He fills them out, he files them with the teacher, and then he comes back to Sarah and says,
It's handled. You don't need to think about it again.
That phrase, that little phrase, is the signal her nervous system has been waiting for. It tells her she can stand down. She can exhale.
That's 2 more bricks gone.
But the work isn't just on him. Sarah has to do the work of relinquishing the scorecard. And for the person who has become the manager, whose identity is competence, that is hard.
She has to stop grading his efforts against her own perfectionist standards.
Yes, the path to balance is going to be messy. She has to tolerate imperfection for the sake of partnership.
So if he takes over dinner and orders pizza,
She can't criticize the nutritional content. She has to validate his ownership, even if the execution is different. PG Sebastian teaches that resonance is built when you value the partner more than the process.
she has to put down the clipboard.
And trust he'll catch her. That's scary vulnerability.
Wow, this has been a critical journey today. We've gone from the calcification of love caused by that transactional ledger
Through the silent pain of the roommate phase.
and toward these really active solutions, the resentment detox, radical generosity, and relinquishing the scorecard.
And Sebastian gives us 2 final, really necessary tools for that rebuilding phase, for the return to resonance. First is reintroducing micro moments of gratitude.
Yeah. Because when they were disconnected, they felt owed, so they stopped saying thank you.
They stop seeing each other. Now they have to actively hunt for the good things the other person does.
Those small, frequent acknowledgments. Thank you for handling the kids this morning. It let me start my day with a moment of peace.
That's the lubricant that gets the rusted gears moving again. It rewrites the narrative from I am being used to I am being seen.
And the final piece.
Protected union time. The clarity meeting handles the business of the household, but couples must schedule this sacred space where they're just a man and a woman again.
Not co-CEOs of a domestic partnership.
Exactly. This is time that is strictly separate from logistics. In the beginning, that time might be awkward. It might be silent.
But it's a different kind of silence than the one in the car. It's a silence of shared intention, a space to relearn each other.
The ultimate goal is for that frequency to align again, for you to move from just surviving the institution of marriage to joyfully inhabiting it together. The wall comes down.
So we'll leave you with this provocation straight from Sebastian's clear instruction. Is it time for you to schedule your first union time this week?
PG Sebastian's whole vision is about transforming these complex insights into accessible, practical thought for anyone who is actively pursuing forever. We really urge you to explore more of his work on his Steps to Forever Substack blog and coaching services.
And thank you for making these potent insights your drive time companion, your subtle work companion, listening to PG as you work. Thank you for subscribing, for turning on notifications so you don't miss the next deep dive into building a love that is truly built with clarity.
We'll see you next time.